So Ubisoft just canceled like 6 games, and they also delayed a bunch of them, and let's kind of talk about that. You're going to be hearing a lot about this financial report if you're a fan of any of Ubisoft's franchise, because it affects everything that they are going to be outputting for a long, long time from now. Now, while a lot of people are going to be summarizing like articles they read, I'm going to do you one better. I've got the actual financial report Ubisoft gave all their investors. It's on their website, so we're going to go through that together. No summarizing other people's words here. This is coming straight from the source. Now, the first thing you see in this report from them is that they're going to be making 3 big changes to the company. One, they're changing their operating model, which basically means that they're going to be changing the fundamental way that they make games. Or rather, do business, but their business is games. 2, they're going to have a quote-unquote refocused portfolio, which more or less means they're going to be a little more selective with the kinds of games they make. And 3, this is really hilariously put and stupid, a right-sizing of the organization, which probably just means layoffs. Next up, we have this restructuring of the company's entire operating model. That is a really big change from the sound of it. The best way to kind of like visualize it is that you got Ubisoft HQ at top, which is going to be focused on the business side of game development, as well as like the overall vision for the company. And then below them, you have the creative houses. Each creative house will have certain franchises they are in charge of, or specific types of games they are in charge of. You can almost think of them as like individual businesses at this point. And then within each creative house is going to be a series of studios who are all working for that creative house. So for instance, think of like the Vantage Studios that Ubisoft just recently made that's now in charge of Assassin's Creed. That's a creative house. And Vantage Studios is in charge of like Ubisoft Quebec, Ubisoft Bordeaux. They are the actual studios who create the games. Does this mean that like Ubisoft now has like 2 companies of management above the studios? What? So like the studios have to go through like 2 layers of management to make games? I might be misunderstanding that, but that's insane. If true. Now, let's dive into each of the creative houses. Number 1's the most important to me, and probably to a lot of people who watch me as well, is Vantage Studios. They are in charge of games like Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, as well as the Rainbow Six brand specifically, which is interesting. So basically going forward, any decisions about these 3 franchises in particular, you can equate back to Vantage Studio, if not Ubisoft HQ themselves. Next up, Creative House 2, which doesn't get any special name, so I guess fuck them. They're going to be in charge of all of the competitive shooter experiences. So again, this includes Ghost Recon, Splinter Cell, and The Division, except for Rainbow Six. Except for them, they're in charge of everything else though. And let's lightning around the last 3 of them. We got Creative House 3 in charge of their live service experiences. Brawlhalla, For Honor, you're going over there. Creative House 4 is for immersive fantasy worlds and narrative-driven universes. Beyond Good and Evil apparently still exists. Who would have thought? Also, they're in charge of Prince of Persia. So I guess, they're going to be making something that's not the remake. And Creative House 5, which is in charge of all their casual/family-friendly games. And which, like, based off, like, this list over here, seems like it's going to be mostly about their, like, licensed games. And already, that's a massive change to Ubisoft. Even bigger than, like, their switch to Vantage Studio last year because of Tencent. Bigger than anything that they've announced for a while. Now, this part right here is what a lot of articles and videos are going to be, like, titling their stuff based off of. Now, right here, Ubisoft has said that they have canceled 6 games. One of them is the Prince of Persia remake. 3 of them were new IPs and a mobile title, which leaves a mysterious 5th thing that was apparently of an established franchise that also got canceled. Now, sneaky, Ubisoft announced 7 different games getting delayed. This includes a delay to the unannounced 2026 game all the way to fiscal year 2027. Now, it's important to note that the fiscal year for 2027, according to a quick Google search, starts in September of 2026. So this unannounced game could get released anytime between September of this year and next year, 2027. Which is kind of crazy because they just told investors like earlier this month or like late last month that the game was getting released before the end of March this year. Which just goes to show you like how tumultuous things are at Ubisoft right now, because you can't really lie to investors like that. So they were planning to release it, but now the plans have changed so drastically, so quickly. Now, that's all to position their new creative houses for success in the future. So will this pan out? Who knows, but it's really crazy start to it already. Next up, acceleration of cost reduction initiatives. How are they going to save money? They will do that through strict hiring discipline, which apparently does not include the CEO's family because nepotism exists really bad over there. Also, further restructurings, which just means layoffs, firing people. Now, asset divestitures, I'm not quite sure what that means. That could potentially mean like, they're divesting away from games with the new Assassin's Creed Netflix show. That could include that. but more than likely it's some business talk that I'm not too familiar with myself personally. And this last little part here is just like a lot of like money speak that not too important when it comes to us talking about like the future of Ubisoft video games and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, no, these are all really, really big changes to hit Ubisoft so suddenly, especially after we just got like an investor report like last month that didn't really hint to any of this. Like, part of me wonders how much Tencent has to do with this, because, they did just create that Vantage Studio specifically so Tencent could assist them with making Assassin's Creed and, like, those games and all that. But Tencent wouldn't be affecting the rest of the company like this. So it really does feel like this is a Ubisoft-led decision. Or maybe Tencent, like, had them do something similar with Vantage Studios, and they really liked how that looked, and then they applied to the rest of the company. But that would be such a quick turnaround time for that. And, again, really massive changes to announce, like less than a month, maybe a little more than a month, after having another big investor call. So like potential upsides of this is that like now there is a more dedicated organizational structure to each of their franchises, which is could potentially be nice. The bigwigs who are making decisions about like Assassin's Creed and all that are also making like big decisions for like Just Dance as well. So it lets those people in charge more focus their efforts, which could lead to far better decisions being made for each of those individual properties. However, in a report that's about refocusing the company, honestly, that just felt really bloated to me. Like I mentioned, does that mean that like there are now like two layers of management that studios have to go through to make their games? You have the creative house above them and then Ubisoft HQ also. If that's true, that means that 2/3 of the company's organizational structure is dedicated to management and not developers and studios. Now, that is pure speculation on my part, but that does feel accurate to what I read, but I could potentially be wrong about that, so don't quote me on that. And again, it's crazy that they delayed 7 games and canceled 6 games so soon after. Again, I keep repeating myself, but it's crazy. So soon after a big financial report to their investors. And like that report painted like a really positive picture of the company overall. Like if all of this information was included in that report, it would have looked way more dire for the company. And the fact that they kind of like reshuffle things to announce it now also feels really dire too. Like I'm just gobsmacked at this. This is absolutely insane. I can't think of another gaming company that does it like Ubisoft,